Welcome to the video on Introduction to React.js. In this particular video, we're going to talk about what is React.js, how is it different from normal JavaScript, how we can use React.js to develop the modern web applications. Myself, Achala Ramakrishna. I'm the founder and CEO of RoboDynamics. I've got close to 27 years of industry experience in both India and USA. I mostly worked on object-oriented technologies like C++, Java, Python, etc. I have built desktop as well as web applications. I'm certified in object-oriented analysis and design from Rational Corporation. I've taken CERN certified Java architect as well as TOGAF, the enterprise architect certification when I was with L&T Infotech. In India, I worked for companies like Mar Labs and ISMO as a technical project manager, and I worked as an architect for L&T Infotech. In USA, I worked for banks like Citigroup, State Street, and I had a major stint in Hydrogen Corporation as a product manager too. These are all the kind of topics which we'll be covering in the series of videos in React.js, starting with introduction to building React components. We're going to talk about how state management is done, how the life cycles are done, how the UI forms are getting developed, how we are going to fetch the data from the backend REST APIs, how do we do React, how do we do routing, etc. So all these are all the topics which we'll be covering as part of this particular series of videos. So what is React? React is a declarative, efficient, flexible JavaScript library. It's basically used for developing, modern user interfaces. As far as popularity goes, you can see the list over here, like Apple to Adobe to Microsoft to Walmart to Netflix. Almost every company uses React. React is from Meta, the Facebook, and the Instagram itself is developed in React. That's how popular React is. So, in order to know what is the benefit of React, you need to know about what do you mean by being declarative, what do you mean by being efficient, and what do you mean by flexible. So, I'm going to explain each and every term, right now. So, look at this normal JavaScript example where we have two elements h1 and button. So whenever you click on it, the JavaScript function called change text is getting called. Now what happens in this change text function is you first find the element and then change its text and then the page gets updated. So here two things are getting happening. Not only the the data is getting changed, but it is also the page is also getting updated. Whereas the what exactly happens in React is you can see this function app, which is basically a component. So if the what is written in this app function component, it is if the user is logged in, show welcome user, otherwise show please log in. So the headache of updating the page is left to React. So the benefit of using React is you just have to tell what you want. The actual task of rendering and updating is all done by React. Hence, React is a declarative programming language. I really love React. Now the next thing is how React is efficient. Imagine that whenever you buy items in Amazon.in, let's say your favorite item, a book or a device and everything, so you make a purchase. So in certain section of the Amazon.in, you specify that I want to make a purchase, and you want the cart items to get added also. Like let's say you bought two items, now you pressed on the buy, then the cart item should get changed to three. React does not blindly reload the page. It only checks what got changed and only the necessary part of the UI gets changed. This is one of the most important point which we need to focus on. Like how exactly React does. Actually, just wanted to tell you that earlier we used to develop multi-page applications. Now we are developing single-page applications. How it happens, I'll tell you. So look at this. React maintains something like a virtual DOM. Now you can see the DOM here, and in the brown color there are two circles are there. So what I mean by is, one circle is where the Amazon buy section is, another circle is where the cart section is. So React maintains virtual DOM, and then there is a real DOM. It finds that only two sections of the DOM are getting changed. So what React does, it does the patchwork. So instead of reloading the whole page, only those two sections of the screens gets updated. That's the real benefit. And this is the reason how React is trying to build, what you call as a single page applications. I'm going to talk about single page applications little bit in more detail as we move forward. React is also very flexible. React can be used for developing small applications to large web applications, to banking applications, to mobile applications. React is really flexible. But the most important thing I love about React is, like, React is a front end JavaScript library to develop the web application. That's the front end side of the story. And React can nicely integrate with any of the backend technologies. Now, what are the backend technologies right now popular? Spring Boot, Express.js using Node.js, Python's Django, Python's Fast API, or using C Sharp also you can develop REST APIs using .NET. React doesn't care. React can easily integrate with any of the backend technologies, and I myself have tried Spring Boot, Node.js, Fast API, .NET, and really it worked. So the benefit of using React is you don't have to worry about what backend technology we are using. Hence, it is very flexible. Now the time has come to understand, what is the difference between a single page versus mono-page, multi-page applications. Now you have the traditional college website, government websites, news websites like ndtv.com, blogs, hundreds and hundreds of company websites. From past 30 to 40 years, we have been developing, the multi-page applications. Now, what exactly you mean by a multi-page application? Now, let us understand this. A typical web application has a home page, an about page, a contact page, a product page, and a login page. Now, each page has got the respective HTML or the JSP. Now, if you are developing a Spring MVC application, you will have a home.jsp, you have an about.jsp, contact.jsp, product.jsp, and a login.jsp. So, whenever you click on the about link, what happens? Whenever the user clicks on the about, the request goes to the server. The server sends the about.jsp or about.html to the browser, and the browser reloads the full page. Now imagine from about page you click on the contact page. Again the request goes to the server. Server sends the contact page, and the browser reloads the contact.jsp. So every time what happens, the whole page gets reloaded. And imagine you have a website called Amazon.in or Facebook, where you have billions of users and millions of users are concurrently accessing the system. Then the performance goes very bad, and there is a pressure on the servers to perform and all. So multi-page applications are not for large enterprise scale, heavy user centric, websites or web application. That's where the single page applications, scores. You can use Angular, React, Vue, etc. to develop single page applications. Now the time to understand, what it is. Now React doesn't talk about, individual HTMLs and individual JSPs. React is all about building components. So you have a home component, you have a sidebar component, you have a about component, you have a contact component, and you have a footer component and all. So React is having only single index.html page. So the whole React application is all about one HTML page. Now what happens? User opens a website, right? the main index.html gets loaded. The React application starts. Now user clicks on the menu. Let's say he's clicking on the about. Now what happens is, sorry, what happens is the about component gets loaded. Now you click on contact. So the about component is removed and the contact component gets loaded. The whole page is not getting loaded. Only, as you know, React has the virtual DOM. So you have the about component. Now that section of the screen gets removed and the new contact component is getting replaced. So small patchwork happens. The whole page is not getting loaded. So single page applications is the way to go, and React is extremely popular from past 5 to 8 years, and you see every company is now building single page applications. I really love it. What do you think about it? Now coming back to the prerequisites of knowing React. See, just knowing React is something, and learning React thoroughly is something. Now, if React is not a separate programming language. React is JavaScript, JavaScript is React. React is a library in JavaScript. But before that, I want to tell you, since React is used for developing modern web applications, you should be extremely good at HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, etc. And JavaScript is the most important thing. If you are very good at JavaScript, 40% of the React you already know. I can say that. You will be the best guy to build React applications. Now, what kind of topics in JavaScript you should be well versed with? Variables, functions, arrays, objects. JavaScript ES6 standard notation of writing functions, arrow functions. The JavaScript functions like map, filter, destructuring the whole object, spread operator, promises, and fetching REST APIs in JavaScript. This is what about React is. If you are good at JavaScript, you are good at React. If you are not good at JavaScript, learn JavaScript and then come to the world of React. React is from Meta, and they found out that multi-page applications is not the way going forward. So they are the ones who built React, and the concept of single page applications started. Now React is not the only JavaScript framework which is popular. Of course, React has got a major share in the market. Google's Angular is also very popular. React is a JavaScript library, but Angular is a JavaScript framework. I will talk about it later, but this is something which you really have to know. Vue.js is also popular JavaScript framework. There are other JavaScript frameworks also there called Ember. I have used EXT.js. jQuery is one of the oldest JavaScript library, and Backbone, etc. So there are a lot of other frameworks also using which you can build web applications. Just wanted you guys to know about it. Now React, since React is just a JavaScript library, so you need to know about the ecosystem. Ecosystem meaning other related technologies which work with React well, and that's how you do it. So for developing mobile application, you need to know about React Native. To maintain the state of the product, you are using Redux. Redux is extremely popular. Similarly, an alternative of calling REST API is GraphQL. So you can query the data, the JSON, and you can get it done. So Meta uses GraphQL extensively. There are other development tools and libraries which are also very popular, and you should know about it if, as part of the React ecosystem. So to set up a new React project, you have something like Create React App, and you have Vite. These are all the tools built using Node.js. Now, React is Next.js and Next.js is React. So what I meant by is, if you want to build production level web applications which handles routing, server side rendering, caching, full stack features, etc., then you have to learn Next.js. In fact, you can only build web application using React, but you need Next.js to deploy in production. And there are lots of CSS frameworks like Bootstrap, Material UI, and Design, etc. These are also part of the React ecosystem. Thereby the apps look so trendy and so good. It takes time. It is a journey. So maybe 4 to 6 months it takes by the time you pick up, all these tools and apps, etc. As I was mentioning, that there are two ways to create, uh, set up a React project. One is you create React app, the other one is Vite. Now I'm going to show how to set up a project for your first React application in the next video. I would like to thank all of you for being part of this video and listening to it, and I promise that the subsequent videos I'll give you a pretty good hands-on experience in trying to develop good React applications. Thank you very much. This is Ramkrishna signing off. Bye bye.